Question 1. In the context of a growing e-commerce website aiming to improve user engagement on both desktop and mobile platforms, iDesigner proposes adopting a responsive web design approach using fluid grids, flexible images, and media queries. What is the primary advantage of this approach over creating separate mobile and desktop versions of the site? A. It reduces development and maintenance effort by using a single codebase that adapts to multiple devices. B. It allows the use of device-specific features and optimizations unique to each platform. C. It improves SEO by creating separate URLs for mobile and desktop versions. D. It simplifies UI testing since only one layout needs to be verified across all devices. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Responsive web design's main benefit is maintaining single codebase that fluidly adapts layouts and images to various screen sizes, cutting development and maintenance costs. Option B is incorrect because device-specific optimizations often require separate code, which responsive design tries to avoid. C is wrong as separate URLs can fragment SEO rather than enhance it. D is partially true but less impactful compared to the major benefit of unified maintenance. Overall, responsive design balances performance, cost, and user experience effectively. Question 2. Given the circumstances of a project using Agile methodology for UI design, how should the role of user feedback be integrated to align with best practices in iterative design? A. User feedback should be gathered only after the final release to validate the complete product. B. Feedback should be continuously incorporated in short sprints to incrementally improve usability and functionality. C. User feedback is primarily the responsibility of the CAR team and not the UI designers during Agile cycles. D. Feedback is collected only from stakeholders, as users may not understand design constraints. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Agile emphasizes iterative development where frequent user feedback during short sprints allows continuous refinement, improving usability and reducing costly changes later. Option A contradicts Agile's iterative nature by delaying feedback. C incorrectly shifts feedback responsibility. iDesigners must actively engage with users. D ignores the critical value of user insights regardless of stakeholder input, undermining user-centered design principles. Question 3. While examining a wireframe for a complex data dashboard, the designer must apply CARP principles: contrast, alignment, repetition, proximity. Which design choice best illustrates the effective use of these principles to enhance data comprehension? A. Placing similar data widgets close together and aligning titles for a clean visual hierarchy using contrasting colors to highlight key metrics. B. Using multiple unrelated fonts to differentiate sections, while spacing elements evenly without grouping similar data. C. Applying the same color for all metrics and randomly aligning widgets to maximize screen space. D. Creating high contrast by using dark backgrounds with fonts but ignoring alignment and grouping. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Effective CARP use groups related items, proximity, aligns elements to create structure, alignment, repeats design elements for consistency, repetition, and uses contrast to draw attention to important data. Option B breaks repetition and proximity rules. C fails contrast and alignment, reducing clarity. D emphasizes contrast but neglects alignment and grouping, impairing user comprehension. Question 4. Considering the evidence from cognitive psychology, which principle most strongly supports minimizing the number of navigation choices presented to users on a primary menu to improve usability? A. The Hickman law, which states decision time increases logarithmically with the number of choices. B. Gestalt principle of similarity, which groups similar elements visually. C. Fitz's law, which describes the relationship between target size and selection time. D. Miller's law, which limits human short-term memory capacity to 7 plus or minus 2 items. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Miller's law suggests humans can only hold about 5-9 items in working memory comfortably, so limiting navigation choices reduces cognitive overload and improves usability. Hickman law relates to decision time but is about choice complexity rather than memory. Gestalt principle B focuses on perception, not memory. Fitz's law C concerns physical interaction efficiency, less relevant navigation choice quantity. Question 5. Under the assumption that a web designer is creating a form for users with various disabilities, which design consideration is most essential to ensure accessibility, compliance, and usability? A. Using color alone to indicate mandatory fields. B. Providing clear labels and instructions, keyboard navigation support, and error feedback. C. Relying on placeholder text inside fields to explain input requirements. D. Designing the form with minimal fields to reduce cognitive load but without additional accessibility features. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Accessibility best practices require explicit labels, keyboard navigation compatibility, and clear error messages so all users, including those using assistive technologies, can understand and complete forms effectively. Option A excludes colorblind users. C. Placeholder text disappears once typing starts, risking confusion. D. Minimal fields help usability, but ignoring accessibility features excludes many users. Question 6. From the perspective of site navigation design, which approach best supports both findability and a positive user experience on a large, content-rich website? A. Using a clear hierarchy with primary, secondary, and tertiary navigation menus that provide contextual cues and breadcrumbs. B. Consolidating all navigation links into a single scrollable menu to reduce complexity. C. Employing only a search bar for navigation to streamline the interface. D. Hiding secondary navigation options behind multiple clicks to simplify the main interface. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Although intuitively A seems correct, the question asks for the best support across findability and user experience on a large content-rich site. A well-implemented search bar enables users to directly access deep content efficiently, complementing navigation menus. Options B and D reduce usability by overwhelming or hiding navigation. However, if the search is poor, A would be preferred. Here, advanced UI design prioritizes search as a critical navigation tool. Question 7. When analyzing the impact of typography choices on user interface design, which of the following is the most critical factor to maintain readability across different devices and screen sizes? A. Using decorative fonts to enhance brand personality regardless of legibility. B. Ensuring consistent font sizes, line heights, and adequate contrast between text and background. C. Limiting the number of font weights to 1 to reduce page load times. D. Choosing complex fonts with many serifs to improve reading speed. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. Option D is the incorrect one here and is actually misleading. Complex serif fonts usually decrease readability on screens, especially small devices. The correct answer here is B, which prioritizes legibility through size, spacing, and contrast. A sacrifices readability for style. C focuses on performance but oversimplifies typography needs. Good UI design balances style, readability, and performance with legibility as paramount. Question 8. Across different scenarios of using JavaScript in UI development, what is the fundamental advantage of manipulating the document object model (DOM) directly via scripting for dynamic content updates? A. It allows asynchronous server communication without page reloads. B. It enables client-side content changes instantly in response to user events. C. It guarantees cross-browser compatibility without additional frameworks. D. It reduces the need for HTML and ES by embedding all styles in JavaScript. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Direct DOM manipulation lets the UI respond instantly to user interactions by updating content dynamically on the client side, improving responsiveness. A describes Ajax, which is related but distinct. C is false because DOM methods can have cross-browser inconsistencies. D is incorrect. It best practice keeps structure, style, and behavior separated. Question 9. When faced with ethical considerations in UI design, which practice best demonstrates compliance with legal and moral standards regarding user data privacy? A. Designing opt-out checkboxes that are unchecked by default for marketing communications. B. Using dark patterns to trick users into sharing more personal information. C. Clearly disclosing data collection practices and obtaining explicit user consent before collecting sensitive information. D. Collecting minimal data but without informing users explicitly about usage. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. The correct ethical practices. C. Which emphasizes transparency and explicit consent, aligning with legal frameworks. GDPR. Option A is often criticized as a dark pattern since unchecked opt-outs can manipulate users. B. Explicitly violates ethics. D. Is non-compliant legally and unethical due to lack of transparency. UI designers must prioritize user trust and legal compliance. Question 10. To better understand the relationship between branding and UI design, which element is most crucial to reinforce brand identity consistently across a website's user interface? A. Random use of colors and fonts to keep the design fresh and unpredictable. B. Consistent application of brand colors, typography, logos, and messaging across all UI components. C. Frequent changes in layout to demonstrate creativity and innovation. D. Using generic stock images to appeal to broad audience. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Consistency in visual elements like color, typography, and logos strengthens brand recognition and trust. A. Creates confusion and dilutes brand identity. C. Disrupts user familiarity and coherence. D. Uses generic assets that weaken unique brand messaging. Successful UI design integrates brand elements cohesively to build a strong digital presence. Question 11. Throughout the course of designing a collaborative web platform, the team must decide on an effective project management methodology to handle rapid changes and stakeholder feedback. Which approach best supports continuous UI refinement while accommodating shifting requirements? A. Waterfall methodology, emphasizing upfront design and strict phase completion before moving forward. B. Agile methodology, using iterative sprints that incorporate frequent user and stakeholder feedback. C. V model, focusing on sequential design and corresponding testing phases. D. Spiral model, heavily focused on risk analysis without user involvement. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Agile methodology is ideal for UI projects requiring adaptability and continuous feedback, allowing incremental improvements and quicker reaction to changes. Waterfall A is too rigid and doesn't support iteration. The V model C emphasizes sequential phases, limiting flexibility. Spiral D focuses on risk but lacks emphasis on continuous user involvement, crucial for UI refinement. Question 12. By evaluating usability testing data for a mobile application, the designer notices users frequently miss a critical call to action (ETA) button. Which UI design adjustment would most effectively address this problem? A. Increasing the button size and placing it prominently above the fold with contrasting colors. B. Reducing the number of steps required to reach the CTA but leaving its design unchanged. C. Removing other buttons to reduce visual clutter without changing the CTA. D. Adding detailed text instructions near the CTA without altering its position or appearance. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Increasing size, positioning the CTA prominently, and applying high contrast ensures it stands out visually, capturing user attention efficiently. B. May help flow but won't fix visibility. C. Reduces clutter but may not make the CTA more noticeable. D. Textual instructions are less effective than direct visual prominence, especially on small screens. Question 13. Taking into account the importance of accessibility, which practice is crucial when choosing color schemes for users with visual impairments, including color blindness? A. Relying solely on color differences to convey important information or statuses. B. Combining color with text labels, icons, or patterns to differentiate UI elements. C. Using pastel color palettes exclusively to reduce high strain. D. Prioritizing bright, saturated colors regardless of contrast ratios. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Accessibility standards require that color should not be the sole indicator of information. Combining color with text or symbols ensures everyone, including colorblind users, can perceive content correctly. A. Risks excluding many users. C and D address aesthetics but not accessibility, compliance, or contrast needs. Question 14. From multiple perspectives, what is the core benefit of creating detailed user personas during the design process? A. To collect quantitative data about user demographics. B. To represent target users' goals, behaviors, and pain points, guiding empathetic design decisions. C. To define the technical specifications and back-end architecture of the system. D. To replace usability testing by predicting user actions precisely. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Personas synthesize qualitative insights about users to help designers empathize and tailor interfaces effectively. A. Focuses on demographics, which is insufficient alone. C. Pertains to development, no UI design. D. Is false. Personas inform but do not substitute real user testing, which remains essential. Question 15. Considering the evidence of mobile-first design strategies, which advantage most clearly supports starting UI design with smaller screen constraints? A. It simplifies design by eliminating the need for responsive adjustments. B. It forces prioritization of essential content and functionality, improving overall usability. C. It ignores desktop users, focusing exclusively on mobile devices. D. It decreases development time by using identical layouts for all devices. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Mobile-first design prioritizes core content functionality due to limited screen space, which enhances usability across all devices when progressively enhanced. A is incorrect because responsive adjustments are still needed. C wrongly suggests ignoring desktop users, which mobile-first does not endorse. D is false. Mobile-first often requires tailored layouts for desktops. Question 16. Within the framework of JavaScript event handling, what is the primary reason for using event delegation rather than attaching event listeners to multiple child elements individually? A. It reduces memory usage and improves performance by leveraging event bubbling. B. It disables all default behaviors on child elements. C. It prevents any event propagation to parent elements. D. It forces synchronous execution of event handlers for each element. Answer. Correct answer, A. Explanation. Event delegation improves efficiency by attaching one event listener to a parent which handles events bubbled up from children, reducing memory footprint. B is false. Event delegation does not disable default behaviors by itself. C contradicts bubbling concept. D misrepresents asynchronous execution, which is unrelated. Question 17. Among the various strategies for search engine optimization, SEO in UI design, which practice most directly enhances the site's visibility and ranking on search engines. A. Using descriptive, semantic HTML tags to improve content structure and accessibility. B. Embedding keywords invisibly in white text on white backgrounds. C. Increasing page load time by adding large, unoptimized images. D. Creating navigation menus exclusively using JavaScript without fallback. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. The correct answer is that semantic HTML helps search engines understand page content and improves accessibility, positively influencing SEO. B is a black hat SEO tactic penalized by search engines. C actually harms SEO due to slow loading. D reduces crawlability and user access, negatively impacting SEO. Question 18. With respect to wireframes and mockups, what is the primary distinction between these two prototyping tools in the UI design process? A. Wireframes focus on detailed visual styles, while mockups emphasize layout and structure. B. Wireframes are low-fidelity sketches illustrating layout and functionality. Mockups are high-fidelity, visually polished representations. C. Mockups are created before wireframes during initial brainstorming. D. Wireframes are interactive and used for final user testing, and mockups are static concepts. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Wireframes are basic blueprints focusing on structure function without detail, while mockups add visual polish. A reverses this. C is incorrect. Wireframes typically precede mockups. D is false. Wireframes are usually low fidelity and not interactive, whereas interactive prototypes come after mockups. Question 19. In light of recent developments in UI frameworks, what is the main advantage of using a component-based architecture in front-end development? A. It creates monolithic code bases that are harder to maintain. B. It promotes code reusability, modularity, and easier maintenance of UI elements. C. It prevents developers from customizing UI elements for specific contexts. D. It eliminates the need for CSS styling entirely. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Component-based design breaks UI into reusable, isolated parts, improving maintainability, consistency, and scalability. A is the opposite. C is false. The components can be customized via props or states. D is incorrect since CSS or styling is still needed to style components. Question 20. How might one explain the importance of prototyping in the design process, particularly before development begins? A. Prototyping is a purely aesthetic step that delays project timelines. B. It helps identify usability issues and gather user feedback early, saving costs by preventing late-stage changes. C. It replaces the need for detailed specifications and documentation. D. Prototypes are only useful for marketing and have no functional value. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Prototyping validates design concepts early, uncovers issues, and guides development, thus preventing costly redesigns. A is a misconception, ignoring its functional role. C is false, documentation is still necessary. D trivializes prototyping's value in functional testing and iteration. Question 21. Given the circumstances of designing a navigation system for a complex website, which feature most effectively helps users maintain their orientation within the site's hierarchy and improves usability? A. Breadcrumb trails showing the user's current location and path. B. Hiding all secondary navigation to reduce visual clutter. C. Using only homepage link as the primary navigation element. D. Removing all navigational elements to encourage exploration. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Breadcrumb trails provide a clear hierarchical path back to previous pages, improving user orientation and reducing confusion. Option B removes useful navigation, hindering user experience. C is insufficient for complex sites as it limits navigation options. D drastically harms usability and is not a recommended practice. Question 22. In terms of effective UI design, what is the main advantage of using a grid system for layout and composition? A. It guarantees that all elements will have equal visual weight. B. It provides a structured, consistent framework that enhances alignment and balance across pages. C. It allows for completely free-form design with no constraints. D. It eliminates the need for typography considerations. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The grid system organizes content systematically, fostering alignment, balance, and visual harmony. A is incorrect as grids don't enforce equal visual weight. C contradicts the purpose of grids, which provide structure. D is false. The typography remains essential regardless of grids. Question 23. When considering ethical and legal issues in UI design, which practice aligns best with respecting intellectual property rights? A. Using open source libraries with proper attribution according to licenses. B. Copying popular UI components from competitors without modification. C. Ignoring copyright notices when using stock images. D. Claiming all code and design assets as proprietary regardless of origin. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The correct answer is A. Respecting intellectual property involves adhering to licensing terms, including attribution for open source use. Options B, C, and D violate legal and ethical standards, risking legal penalties and damage to reputation. Question 24. As illustrated by user-centered design principles, why is it essential to conduct usability testing with real users rather than relying solely on expert reviews? A. Real users provide insights into actual behaviors, preferences, and pain points that experts might overlook. B. Expert reviews are sufficient to identify all usability problems. C. Usability testing is only necessary for final product launch. D. Experts and users have identical perspectives on UI issues. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is they. Real users reveal genuine usage patterns and challenges which may differ significantly from expert assumptions. B. Overestimates experts' ability to predict all issues. C. Delays problem identification. D. Incorrectly assumes experts and users see problems identically. Question 25. Based on the information about responsive web design, which method best optimizes images to improve page load performance without sacrificing quality? A. Serving multiple image resolutions using the element and SRC set attributes for different devices. B. Using one high-resolution image for all devices to maintain visual fidelity. C. Avoiding images entirely to speed up loading. D. Embedding large images as base encoded strings inline in HEM. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The correct answer is A. Providing appropriately sized images for different screen resolutions via an SRE set improves load times and visual quality. B. Wastes bandwidth on small devices. C. Is impractical for rich content sites. D. Inflate HTML size and hampers caching. Question 26. From the perspective of color theory and UI design, which combination most effectively enhances both aesthetic appeal and accessibility? A. Using high contrast complementary colors while avoiding color combinations problematic for colorblindness. B. Selecting colors purely based on brand guidelines, ignoring contrast ratios. C. Applying only pastel colors regardless of contrast. D. Using the same color for background and text to create a uniform look. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The correct answer is A. High contrast complementary colors improve readability and visual interest, while accessibility considerations ensure inclusivity. B. Neglects usability. C and D impair readability and user experience. Question 27. Within the framework of JavaScript debugging, what is the most effective initial step when a high component is not rendering as expected? A. Checking the browser console for error messages and warnings. B. Immediately rewriting the entire component code. C. Ignoring console outputs and focusing only on visual inspection. D. Deleting all CSS to isolate the problem. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is A. Browser consoles provide critical clues through error messages and warnings, helping locate issues. B is premature and inefficient. C ignores valuable diagnostic tools. D is drastic and often unnecessary. Question 20. Taking into account site structure best practices, which approach improves SEO and user experience simultaneously? A. Using descriptive, human-readable URLs that reflect the site hierarchy. B. Creating complex URLs with long query strings and random characters. C. Using the same URL for different content pages. D. Hiding content behind forms or login screens to increase perceived exclusivity. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Human readable URLs improve crawlability and user trust by clearly indicating page content. B. Confuses users and search engines. C. Causes duplicate content issues. D. Reduces content discoverability and SEO effectiveness. Question 29. When designing forms for user input, what is the most effective way to minimize errors and enhance the user experience? A. Providing inline validation with clear, real-time feedback as users fill out fields. B. Validating input only after form submission to avoid interrupting the user. C. Using vague error messages like invalid input. D. Avoiding form validation to prevent user frustration. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The correct answer is A. Inline validation gives users immediate feedback, reducing errors and frustration. B. Delays correction. C. Is unhelpful and confusing. D. Risks data quality and user confusion. Question 30. Considering the evolving role of content management systems, CMS, which characteristic best supports efficient UI design and content updates for a dynamic website? A modular architecture that allows designers to update UI components independently from content. B. SATI HTML pages without backend integration. C. MS with new user-friendly interface requiring developer intervention for every change. D. CSS that restrict UI customization to preset templates only. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is A. Modular CMS architectures facilitate UI flexibility and quick content changes. B. Lacks dynamic capabilities. C. Impedes content agility. D. Limits design creativity and adaptability.